Democratic Congresswoman Rashida Tlaib apologized for causing a distraction last week after using an expletive in calling for President Trump's impeachment. Tlaib responded to the controversy by defending her remarks, saying she ran on impeaching Trump. Yesterday, the Michigan Congresswoman was asked if she had any regrets about her comments.
What I can tell you is I am a person that is, authentically me. I'm very passionate about fighting for all of us. And the use of that language, was a teachable moment for me. And I understand I am a member of Congress, and I don't want anything that I do or say distract us. And that's the only thing I apologize for, is that it was a distraction.
All right. Yeah, I mean, I can relate. This does happen, especially in passionate moments, Joe. When you feel strongly about something, you're having a reaction. She did appear to get caught up in pleasing the crowd, and she did cause a distraction. Was her apology enough, do you think?
Yeah, certainly. I mean, how many times has that happened to us? It happens. You get in front of a crowd, and you always, you've started to tell me every time we walk out into a crowd, the last thing you say is, don't overmodulate.
Be boring.
Don't go out there and work too hard to get laughs. Just be yourself and don't overmodulate. And so I think I was glad to hear her say that, because we've had her on the show before, and it's a very exciting story.
Yeah.
And it certainly sounds like she gets it. I know, Doris, when I got to Washington, I said a lot of things that I regretted, and eventually you do learn to modulate a bit. But there's a debate going on in the Democratic Party, though, that certainly among some sectors of the progressive wing that concern me, which is, don't apologize for anything. Trump does it, so we should do it. We even saw it on a rising star in the Democratic Party going on 60 Minutes and saying, well, it doesn't really matter whether I tell the truth or not, so much as it does matter is my heart's in the right place or not. That's Trump-like thinking. And I just wonder whether they should listen to Michelle Obama and just stay with Michelle's advice. When they go low, we go high, because campaigns are about contrast, if nothing else.
And I think the most important thing, anybody who's going to grow in office has to have the humility to acknowledge errors and learn from your mistakes. That's the only way you're going to become something different. When Teddy Roosevelt first got into the state legislature, he was screaming at the Democrats. He made headlines. Everybody loves it when somebody makes some comments like that, but he realized he couldn't get anything done, that he was on top of a mountain and nobody was listening to him, so he had to soften his rhetoric. I think the fact that she came out right away and said she distracted, she shouldn't have used that language, she had a teachable moment. That means she's going to grow. You have to grow in understanding of humility. You have to grow in terms of expanding your empathy. You have to get resilience when you're in office. Leaderships have to be developed. And the example that we have from President Trump, it's as if whenever he would ever apologize, it would be a sign of weakness. And that's become too often a political mantra these days, that you can't apologize because you'll look weak. You look strong when you're able to acknowledge something. It shows there's an internal confidence. And I wish more of them could understand that this is an important teachable moment, not only for her, but maybe for a lot of these young characters coming in with all their passion, to know they're really setting a tone right now, and it has to be a different tone from the tone that the president is setting. I agree with you totally.
Walter, the language aside, though, the sentiment that Rashida Tlaib expressed at that event, where she talked about impeachment using the colorful language she used, is exactly what many of this new class of Congress was elected on. This was their mandate. We've watched Donald Trump for 2 years. We need you to ride into town and politically take him out one way or another. They feel they are representing their voters, the passions of their voters, when they talk like this and when they use this rhetoric.
Yeah, but I think it's a mistake to go barreling into impeachment well before you've even looked at the Mueller report, before you've decided. This is not a road you want to go down in this country, which is using impeachment just because there are passions within your base. You have to do it because there's certain facts, and we'll find out what those facts are. But I think Joe made a point a moment ago that's the most important, which is the Democratic Party going to be Trumpized? And are they going to become uncivil and attack at all times? Or are they going to try to be a party that says, no, we know how to govern, we can work together, And I think the country, I've heard Mike say this many times, is hungering for people to say, okay, let's calm down now and just be serious. And I would hope that the Democratic Party would at least offer that option as well.
But, and Casey, part of the explanation for Rashida Tlaib's passion and perhaps part of the explanation for what she said and how she said it lies in the fact of the district she represents, where still today there are hundreds of school children unable to drink the drinking water in their schools in Flint, Michigan, and other places in her congressional district because of the poison in the water. That's part of who she is, representing that anger and that frustration.
Rashida Tlaib is a longtime activist. She's in a very safe Democratic district. I would say she actually doesn't necessarily represent this freshman class that swept into Washington, because a lot of those people come from Trump districts. They were flipping swing areas. And when you listen to them talk about this, I mean, some of them didn't support Nancy Pelosi for Speaker. You know, they say, look, I'll work with the president where I can, but I'll stand up to him where I can't. And, you know, that was the part. The issue was less the expletive that Rashida Tlaib used, but rather how that expletive kind of amped up her comments about impeachment and how that turned the conversation right away from Democrats attempting to reopen government from their legislative agenda to them going after the president, and gave an opening to the president's staff to be able to say, look, these people don't actually have any interest in helping you. All they're interested in is taking down the president. And Nancy Pelosi has been very careful to make sure that has not been the message, that they are going to wait for Mueller's findings, that if in fact there's something there, they will of course take the appropriate steps. But I think that by and large, Democrats think and don't make no mistake, they want President Trump out of office. They just think the likeliest route is through an election, right? Less so through a process that's ultimately going to throw him out of office. And if that's the goal, then going too far down this impeachment road is an electoral potential problem that the president can use to run on in 2020. I think that's some of the thinking that's playing out here.
Very good point. Coming up, much more on the slip-up by Paul Manafort's lawyers, revealing what some say could be collusion. The damaging information that his legal team meant to redact. Ahead on Morning Joe.
Thanks for checking out MSNBC on YouTube, and make sure you subscribe to stay up to date on the day's biggest stories. And you can click on any of the videos around us to watch more from Morning Joe and MSNBC. Thanks so much for watching.